Good morning, everybody. So it's Wednesday morning and I'm walking here northeast Albuquerque. So this is a natural floodplain or flood area that comes down from the Sandia Mountains. And there's a model airplane flying field. There is a dog walking park beyond it. There are tennis courts, and over this way is a golf course and some kind of hiking trails along the areas near the arroyo itself. Monday afternoon, I met my friend Kevin down at John Lewis's typewriter shop here in Albuquerque. There was no particular reason for me to go down there except just to meet Kevin. Kevin had some business to do with him. I, of course, like to check out all the typewriters that he has for sale, and he has quite a few. But one thing I noticed is, thinking about my typewriter collection, I don't have a full-size standard upright typewriter. I had a SG3. One of the local typewriter people here in Albuquerque sort of gave me an SG3. I had it for a while. I kind of enjoyed it. I discovered some things about myself and typewriters. With full-size typewriters, it was very cool. The height of the typewriter, the size of it, and having the paper higher up above the desk, the print position, it presented like this edifice that helped keep distractions, visual distractions at bay. It was pretty cool. But the machine, of course, at Olympia, built really super well, but I didn't like the ultra or the extra wide carriage, and I didn't like the heaviness of the carriage return. So I ended up giving the machine back to that person. But since then, I keep thinking about two things. I keep thinking about, I need a standard upright machine that's super good for long-term big writing projects where you have to do a lot of touch typing for a long time. And secondly, I'm continuing the process of reconsidering my typewriter collection, what I want to keep and what I want to rid myself of. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I've been trying to keep a typewriter on my desk all the time. Have one typewriter, and I try to cycle through my collection. And recently, I've been using the Smith Corona Silent Super, and there's a lot of reasons why I really love that machine. And I can type extended durations on that machine with no problem. And so yesterday, I sort of started thinking about what is it about certain typewriters that makes me want to keep using them. And immediately I started thinking about my recent addition to my collection, my Olivetti Studio 45, and how, even though it's a pretty machine, turquoise blue, kind of modern styling, pretty good build quality for a plastic bodied typewriter, there's a few things about it that I just don't like. And so I took out the Studio 45 from my closet, set it up, and started typing on a piece of paper, touch typing, and tried to self-analyze what is it about that typewriter that I don't like. And so I sort of started this impromptu process yesterday of going through a number of machines in my collection and doing the same thing as I did with the Studio 45, kind of analyzing them and trying to figure out what is it that I like or don't like about them. And this gets us to discussions that my friend Kevin and I have been having over the last couple years. Actually, when we meet, we invariably start talking about what is it that we like about this or that typewriter or don't like. And through a whole series of these conversations we've had, we've kind of boiled it down to the fact that the typewriters we really like are the ones that disappear when you're writing. In other words, they become transparent. Your conscious mind has few distractions from the machine itself, and it can think about the words in your head and the words on the paper. And we think that's super critical, super important in terms of choosing a writing typewriter, a working typewriter, a typewriter that you're going to use for long-term projects, thousands of words. It has to be a typewriter that disappears. And we noticed a lot of machines that seem to otherwise be good machines or have good reputations amongst the typewriter community don't necessarily work well as workhorse machines, because there are certain like little distractions. Let me give you an example. Let's use the Studio 45 Olivetti as an example. First of all, for me, its touch is kind of indistinct and mushy. Secondly, the tiering of the rows of keys from front to back is too steep. Thirdly, the key travel is a little too deep on the keys. That conspires to make, for me, for my hands, to make rapid touch typing a chore. And also, that particular machine has a problem where the letters intermittently look kind of smeared horizontally or almost double struck. And I suspect it may have something to do with the hard platen. A combination of the hard platen and the light touch means the type bars bounce a little bit, probably. And also, it sounds a little clattery. There is a lot of room in the plastic body to add sound insulation if I wanted to, but all of that kind of means, taken as one lump sum, that machine doesn't appeal to me as a workhorse machine. And so I'm at the point in my typewriter collecting that if it's a choice between getting rid of or keeping, that's a rid. Studio 45 is a rid. So then I took out my Hermes Rocket, did the same test to it on its own sheet of paper. There's a lot of things I like about the Hermes Rocket. I like the small typeface. Of course, I like the diminutive size of the Hermes, but when you're thinking about a workhorse typewriter, the size of it isn't as important, I think. The imprint on that machine is a little mushy. It probably needs a new ribbon. And it just has certain things about the feel of it that isn't really conducive to long-term writing for me. In spite of the fact that it's a great ultra portable, one of the greatest perhaps. Okay, so that unfortunately is probably going to be a rid. Get rid of it. Perhaps to the guy that gave it to me. It belonged to his father-in-law. And then I decided, well, let's look at another ultra portable. I pulled out the 1972 Royal Mercury, right? Made by Silver Seiko. And my goodness, what a difference. The Royal Mercury was so much better to type on. And when I'm saying type on, I mean touch typing, right? Workhorse, rapid touch typing. The Royal Mercury is really good, has a great touch. The solidity of the touch continues throughout the whole stroke. The stroke of the keys isn't too deep. The keyboard isn't too cramped. There's nothing mechanically about the machine that gets in the way of the writing process. It's even not as loud as the loudest machines in my collection, even though this one has a hard platen. So the Royal Mercury is a keeper. That's a machine I would seriously use for workhorse writing. So I tried to be objective about this test, and I tried not to be swayed by appearances or by reputation of the machines. So the next two machines were the Hermes 3000, the elder, and the Hermes 3000, the younger. And both of those machines passed the test of workhorse typewriters. Not because of the reputation, not because of their name, not because of how much it might cost you to buy one on the used market these days, but because they don't have any glaring problems that stand in the way of you and getting the words on paper. They become transparent, they disappear, and you can just use them for writing. My Smith Corona Silent Super is the same way. Wonderful workhorse machine that disappears into the background when you're using it. It has a really nice dark imprint also. Of course, it has all fresh rubber from J.J. Short, Elite Typeface, which is one of my criteria, although not the only criteria. And that gets us to the Groma Colibri. There's a lot to like about the Groma Colibri. Its reputation, its origin story in East Germany, its build quality, its solidity, a lot of things are so cool about it. Mine is a Pica typeface, and actually, the typing experience on it for me is better than the Hermes Rocket, to be honest with you. My machine puts out an okay imprint. It's not as dark as I would like. Right now, I'm kind of on the fence about the Colibri. I think I want to keep it. Keeping in mind that my criteria here is about changing my reasons for having a collection. I'm not collecting typewriters to collect. I'm collecting typewriters to use them, to be tools. So if there's a machine in my collection that I like for one reason or another, its age, its appearance, its provenance, whatever, but if I'm not using it for serious writing, I don't think I'm going to keep it in my collection because I don't want to clutter my life up. So the real thing is, for me, is it has to give me joy. And really what it is the joy of writing. That is my criteria. And so we come to the 1930 Underwood Portable. When I was at Kevin's on Monday, he brought out 2 Underwood Portables of the same rough vintage. For my particular touch, I can induce skipping. And I noticed on my Underwood Portable, I did the same test with it yesterday, and sure enough, it skips intermittently in lowercase mode, doesn't skip in caps lock. Also, it had a fairly, not a super faint imprint, but not as dark as I'd like. And I went ahead and changed the ribbon and put in one of my new DIN ribbons and put on eyelets on them. And the imprint is really hardly any darker. Another typewriter that I normally would keep for appearance's sake, but because I want workhorse typewriters in my collection, it doesn't really meet the criteria. Okay, now we get to the Royal Quiet Deluxe Adobe Rose. That was another gift typewriter. Haven't used it all that much. But in this test I did yesterday, I took her out of the closet, set her up, and began touch typing on her, and boy does she type good. There's nothing wrong at all with a QDL. There's no mechanical issues that stand in the way. The sound is fairly muted. The touch action is really good. The keyboard is pretty darn good. I do have a problem with, because I'm right-hand dominant and I'm not a great manual typewriter touch typist, I do have a problem with my pinky on my left hand being weak, and I commonly will miss-hit. Also my pinky's a little crooked, and I miss-hit the key sometimes, and I end up partially hitting the shift lock key. So certain keyboards are more prone to this with me than others because of the proximity of the shift lock to the A key. And so the Quiet Deluxe is not too bad in that regard. But overall, it's a great typer. It's a keeper. It really is. It needs a new ribbon. It has a really beautiful typeface. Royal Quiet Deluxe, definitely a keeper in terms of a typewriter you could do long touch typing sessions on. Well, then we come to the Type Bar electric machines. You know, I think almost all of the Type Bar electrics that I've tried meet the criteria of a workhorse machine because the quality of their imprint is independent of your finger speed and force. The key touch is super light, like a electric typewriter should be. And so you can type a lot of words really quickly on a Type Bar electric. So the Smith Corona 5 series is probably the smallest Type Bar electric in terms of footprint that's really super good quality. I started this piece by talking about having gone to John Lewis's and seeing an upright that was a Royal KMM 1945, black. It's been totally restored, has a soft platen. John's even touched up the crinkle paint and it looks beautiful. I'm really thinking about something like that, but I have to go down and really have to sit down and type at least a page or two on it to really see if it's compatible with my touch as far as a workhorse touch typing typewriter that I would like to potentially have in my collection. Keeping in mind, of course, I don't really have room for a full-size typewriter on my desk all the time. I think when I look long-term at where I want to go with my typewriter collection, I want to have a workhorse standard machine. I want to have a workhorse medium-sized portable, maybe a couple of them, and then 1 or 2 workhorse ultra portables, all of which could be used for extensive typing. Well, they do say that variety is the spice of life, so it is nice to have more than one machine. All the machines that I want to have need to be machines that I can sit down and do extensive long-term writing on that will disappear, become transparent, become invisible. Into the background, they'll fade, and the only thing I can think in my head would be words in my head, words on paper, work on the writing itself rather than constantly being distracted by the machine and its foibles. That's my goal. So but wait, there's more to the story. Well, after I signed off from the video and left Arroyo del Oso Park, I decided, let's go down to John Lewis's shop and let's give that Royal KMM a test typing. Let's try it out and see if I really like it before I decide I'm going to get it. Well, you probably already know how this thing worked out. So I came down to the shop and there was a sold sign on the typewriter. And I looked at John and I said, John, did someone buy it all of a sudden? He goes, no, I put that on there for you. John is 78 years old. He's been repairing and selling typewriters for a long, long time. And I think he knew that he probably saw the look in my eyes and figured, this guy's going to be back. So he has a nice table there in his showroom with chairs, typing paper, typewriters already set up. So he made a place for this. He set this down on the table. I grabbed a piece of paper and I threaded it in, and I immediately started touch typing on it. And it was really wonderfully smooth and just the kind of machine that I thought I needed, right? In terms of workhorse typing, I can type really comfortably on this for a long time in touch typing mode. So my biggest problem is really that oftentimes my pinky of my left hand striking the A key, I oftentimes misstrike it and hit the shift lock. Well, on this machine, the shift lock is up higher, almost next to the Q, right? I didn't have any problems typing on this machine, and it is such a nice touch. Of course, anybody who knows about Royal, the full-size Royals, knows the mechanics of these are basically based on the older Royals, right, from early 20th century. They've just been updated. Anyway, John did a wonderful job on this machine, and when you buy a typewriter from John Lewis, you're getting like the full John Lewis treatment. And he had on his repair shop is right in the front of the store, and you can see him working on the machine. He had the guts of something very much like this torn apart on his bench. He tears these things down to the last part. He takes the escapements apart. He takes the carriage off and all that. Everything gets cleaned and gone over. And this one, he even repainted some of the front around the space bar with some new crinkle paint. Wonderful, this crinkle black. This is a 1945 KMM. And, of course, the chrome and all that just gleams. The platen feels really nice. I don't know. I think it might be a new platen, but it certainly feels resilient. I love the test typing that I did. It is a elite size typeface, and the alignment's good. What about all these other machines that we talked about earlier? So I came home. My wife was not home, which the first thing I was thinking was, oh gosh, my instinct is to smuggle the typewriter in the house and try to hide it. Well, I took it in the house, set it up here in the office. And then my wife came home and I told her, so for you guys that are married or in relationships, don't hide your typewriters. Don't try to hide the acquisition. Just face it up front. Let her know, or let him know, that you bought a new typewriter. So I explained to her my whole process I went through yesterday evening and this morning about going through my collection and deciding which ones were workhorse typewriters that I could write with and which ones were not really satisfying that I want to get rid of. We mentioned earlier the old Underwood Portable that is currently out in the patio room on the typewriter table, and I told her that was one of the typewriters that I probably want to get rid of, and she says, no, I love that typewriter. And I said, yeah, but I'll never use it. She goes, I don't care. I like the way it looks. So she likes it for the prettiness of it, right? Also, I mentioned to her some of the other machines I want to offload, and I mentioned the Hermes Rocket. And she said, well, I told her originally, I could give it back to the guy that I got it from because it was his father-in-law's. And she goes, no, they're divorced. He doesn't even care about his father-in-law anymore. And besides, we have this young fella, Javier, who lives in California, who's been writing me incessantly with letters and postcards. In fact, I got a postcard in the mail just today from him. And he was hinting around at wanting a Hermes Rocket. So my wife is thinking, we're going to send that Hermes Rocket to Javier. But in the meantime, my wife says I can take that Underwood Portable, put it in its case. We'll store it away for now to find some place to do with it, to display it in around the house. I'm going to take the typing table that it's currently on. I'm going to move the typing table in here to the office, and this will have a place to stay as a permanently set up typewriter for serious workhorse typing. In the meantime, I do plan on offloading some of the typewriters in my collection. I am going to be preferably giving them away to people locally. I don't want to really ship them if I can avoid it. And I have somebody in mind that might be interested in some of my collection. But there you go, folks. Be honest and upright about your typewriter collections to your significant other. Try to find a place for them in your life. And if you're like me, maybe you're interested in going through your collection and figuring out how to make your collection a little more manageable. Well, this is one way that I found is I'm really interested in using these machines as workhorse typewriters for long typing sessions, touch typing, and not every typewriter satisfies that need of mine. But this is certainly one that will. This was the kind of a machine designed for touch typing, long duration typing with minimal fatigue. I love the ergonomics and the touch and the massiveness and the solidity of it and the smoothness of it. Of course, all those things that are great about standard upright typewriters. But I really look forward to refine my touch typing skills and getting my fingers strengthened so I can truly just type really efficiently and put a lot of words down on paper and do some real creating with this machine. Drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And in the meantime, of course, stay well, stay creative, and have yourselves a great day. I got some typing to do. Bye-bye for now.